What's up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to the channel. So there have been an issue that has been bugging me for a while, right? So as you guys know, right here on the channel, we make a lot of real estate videos, and we always get a lot of negative feedback regarding these homes, that they are being too overpriced, especially right here in Lagos, Nigeria. So I thought I would make a video and see how I can address it in a little way possible, right? So I've seen properties in Lagos which would cost you an arm and a leg, even though the quality of the construction and finishing is very poor when compared to houses in other African countries with superior construction quality and finishing. But recently, I guess you should have heard about the building that collapsed in Ndukwu. Now you can imagine that an apartment in that poorly constructed 25-story high-rise building was sold at $1.5 million. That's about 820 million naira. Anyway, RIP to the lives that were lost, but moving on. Let me do some comparison, right? Now, this is what a $500,000 home looks like in Lagos, Nigeria, and at the same time, this is what the same amount would get you in Cape Town, South Africa. The Cape Town home is located in a pristine neighborhood, right? The Atlantic Beach Estate, which is rated as a top estate in South Africa. The estate has an 18-hole championship golf course. The 5-bedroom home is sitting on 830 square meters. It has a spacious swimming pool, open balcony for relaxation, greenery, lovely architecture. I mean, looking at this home, you can already see the value you're getting for your money. While the Lagos home is located in White Oak Estate, Ologolo. No hate, but you definitely can't compare this neighborhood to that of South Africa, right? The home is sitting on 500 square meters, lower than that of South Africa. The space for the pool looks like it's an afterthought, right? It lacks so many amenities that the South African home would give you for the same price, right? And I bet if you were to choose, you would definitely go for that of South Africa. The real truth is that real estate is drastically overpriced, especially in Lagos, considering the facilities that are available to citizens, right? There is no proper appraisal system. A developer can decide to sell his property at any price, and someone with some loose cash will just pay for it, right? There's a lot of questions to ask as per who is responsible for this hike in property prices, who is financing all these million-dollar homes, and who is buying million-dollar homes listed in a country that has the minimum wage at 35,000 naira, which is like $60, right? I'll try my best to answer some of these questions in this video. What's up, guys? My name is Steven, and right here on the channel, I make videos about real estate, travel, and everything in between. So if it's your first time right here on the channel, please subscribe, as we're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers before the year runs out, right? And like this video so it gets recommended by even more people if it was valuable to you. So let's get on with the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is location and land price, which is very, very obvious, right? Now, when you look at the available land in Lagos, it is constantly reducing, with at least 8 people migrating to Lagos every single hour, especially in places like Ikeja, Surulere, and Yaba on the mainland, and then Lekki via Ikoyi on the island. In places like this, you will need to either buy an old house, demolish it, and rebuild it, or in other scenarios, it's almost impossible to see a dry land to build on in the Lekki VI corridor. And it's because most of these lands are swampy, so the developers have to spend a lot of money sand filling and improving the facilities in these areas, like the road construction, the street lights, which is the sole responsibility of the government, right? So this adds up to the cost of buildings, and in return, the estate developers would add this cost to the overall price point of the properties, making it seem very overpriced. For more clarity on how location and land price leads to a hike in property prices in Lagos, I would analyze a case in point, right? So recently I saw this whooping 1.4 billion naira listing in Shoreline Estate, Ikoyi. It's a beautiful home that sits on 700 square meters of land in a prestigious neighborhood. Now, 70% of the feedback on that video highlighted that the home is extravagantly overpriced and it lacks the basic things that would justify that price point. To validate or falsify that statement, let me break it down for you, the possible cause. Now, land price in this 60-home estate starts at an average of 700,000 per square meter. Now, being that this home is 700 square meter, that brings the cost to about 490 million naira. Now, you can easily predict why the cost of land is that pricey, right? It's Sandfield, which is a very expensive activity. It's close to Banana Island, and it's in a privileged neighborhood. So let's say that this building, it cost the developer at least 150 million naira to build it, which includes the architectural drawing, survey, soil test, construction, finishing, fitting, and all of that, right? Then an extra 30 million naira to pay the necessary dues to the state and federal government. That brings the total cost to 670 million naira. Most greedy developers would want to seek a 50% and above profit, but let's keep the developer's profit at 40% because it's a business, right? So that brings the cost to 560 million naira. Now, with this my amateur breakdown, you can easily see how properties in this location quickly runs into billions of naira or even millions of dollars, right? But the next question to ask is, who can afford this home in a country where most of the citizens are considered to be living below the poverty line, right? Who bought this home? Because yes, that listing has been sold. Now that brings us to point number 2, which is the non-Nigerian bias in Lagos. Millions of Nigerians in Nigeria and Nigerians in diaspora and even foreigners are seeking to penetrate the real estate market in the country. So if you really want to pick a fight and blame the issue of overpricing on anyone, then I think it should be the constant influx of foreigners who are increasing in numbers right here in the city. So obviously, these people are coming in with foreign currency, like USD most of the times, and they're entering into the real estate market with wealth that only a few Nigerians can boast of. And also, there are other interesting cases where foreigners acquire very luxurious properties in this city strictly for investment reasons, and they don't even live there, right? So you probably would think this doesn't affect the average Nigerian who go for regular homes, and you would be correct for thinking this way. Okay, so look at this. When you sell a normally priced fish in the market at 100 naira for 200 naira, even after increasing the price by 100% and it's still being highly demanded, what most sellers would do is to retain 200 naira as the new price, and this keeps happening in the real estate market, right? Developers and estate managers would constantly increase the price, knowing so well that there's always going to be a demand in the market for them to sell to. So most Nigerian developers also transact with foreign buyers who buy their properties with hard-earned currency, and they constantly build for that market in a country with many below average earning citizens. Now, talking about demand for housing, that brings us to point number 3, which is the high demand and low supply. This is simple economics, right? In the real world, demand and supply determine the cost of anything, right? So one of the first lessons in any economic class will be the explanation of the correlation between supply, demand, and price, right? So with over 20 million people in Lagos, the supply of housing in the state is constrained, but at the same time, demand is extremely high. Therefore, it is no surprise that property prices are considered overpriced or expensive, right? Something else I'd like to talk about is the cost of construction. Nigeria doesn't have a very stable economy, and being that the country is an import-dependent country, a change in dollar rates affects the cost of construction materials, given that the Nigerian construction industry is heavily dependent on foreign importation of raw materials and equipment used for these constructions, right? So let me explain. When you visit a newly built home, you'll find out that 50% of the materials used, from the marbles to the bathtubs down to the doors, lighting amenities, they were all imported by the developer. And it's a thing of pride to say, hey man, all of these that you see were imported, because buyers actually like that language, right? And of course, these developers would have to pay for these import duties. For the developers to remain profitable, they'll have to pass down these additional costs incurred into the market, right? Something else we talk about is the constant loss of value of the naira, or what some people would call inflation, right? So speaking from the developer's perspective, when you build a house in November, you spend X amount, and then in 6 months time, you're spending 10% more than the initial cost to build the same structure. So most developers would raise the cost of this property to match the current inflation rates, and all of this adds up to the overall cost of the home, making it seem very overpriced, right? So when you look at the value for money, as we know, the naira keeps getting weaker. 50 million in 2010 is like 40 or 38 million in 2020, without a relative increase in price and wages of citizens that are in need of this housing. So something else I want to talk about is the cost of infrastructure. Now, this is a problem because the government is solely responsible to provide basic amenities in these communities to make these neighborhoods quote construction worthy, right? But in the absence of this, the estate developers work on the drainage themselves, they work on the road, the security, water supply and treatment, electrification, even beautification and greenery of these neighborhoods. Especially in places on the island, these developers would have to sandfill these lands themselves, right? So it is justifiable to add this cost to the overall cost when selling a property in that neighborhood, making the homes seem very overpriced, right? But the thing to talk about is who really is to be blamed for this ridiculous hike in the real estate market in the state, right? I would say it's the government, yes, not the developers, because the housing sector in the country is one that the government needs to get heavily involved in, whether it be building affordable homes, considering the high immigration rates into Lagos State. Come to think about it, the private developers are businessmen looking to make money from their construction. So building affordable homes might not be as profitable as building for the high-end market, right? So the government also have to make mortgaging and financing easily accessible to not just the rich but the lower middle class and also the poor. And on the other hand, something else to talk about is declustering Lagos State, for goodness sake. Anyway, this is a conversation for another day, but the economy has to do well. People have to earn decent income to actually afford these projects that are going to be built by not just private developers but the government as well. All of this being said, if you're somebody that's living in Nigeria or you're a Nigerian in diaspora looking to invest in this real estate market, even with the hike in the prices, something else you can do is to invest in off-plan projects. So basically, what an off-plan project is like you have the opportunity to invest in a project at foundation or wherever the construction would be at that point in time, right? So most of these real estate companies would like to sell their homes even from the groundbreaking, right? And if you as a home seeker key into projects like that at that stage, you would tend to buy it a little bit cheaper than when the property is fully built and out there in the market for sale, right? Now, something else you can also do if you're looking to get cheap real estate is to go to areas that are not so popular or close to Ikoyi, Lekki, VI or Yaba Surulere, right? You can go to Mowe if you're on the mainland. You can go to Ekpe, Ibeju, Lekki, right? And go and secure large expanse of lands in that area and just wait for appreciation to come, right? I have quite a number of companies and properties that you can actually invest in. If you want such information, email me at stevennduks@gmail.com. Put it right here and we're going to take up that conversation, right? So let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are concerning this. Who is really responsible for the hike in property prices and how can we go about it? Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Steven. As I told you earlier on, please subscribe to the channel as we're trying to crush 100,000 subscribers right here on the channel before the year ends, and it's going to be a blessing if we actually do that, right? So like this video if you actually liked it or if it was valuable to you, so that it's going to get recommended by even more people. All right, on to the next video right here on the channel. I'm going to see you soon. Peace.